Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Dekalb City Council, April 12, 2021. Prior to our roll call this evening, I would like to remind anyone in the audience who would like to speak to any item on the agenda, or for that matter, any item not on the agenda, to kindly fill out a speaker request form. They're in the foyer in the hallway there. Give that to to Joanne Rouse, who is substituting tonight for Ruth Scott, and we'll get you on at the appropriate time. Also, for anyone choosing to speak during public participation tonight, I'd like you to try to refrain or keep those comments to 3 minutes or less. Okay, with that, is Lynn Fazekas, our city clerk, on the line but via Zoom?
Yes, I am.
Very good, Lynn, welcome. We have a full complement of city council members here in person. So with that, I'd ask City Clerk Fazekas to please call the roll.
Morris.
Here.
Finucane.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Perkin.
Here.
McAdam.
Here.
Verbeek.
Here.
Favor.
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here.
8-I.
Thank you. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Joanne. These folks will not necessarily be speaking tonight, but before we approve tonight's agenda, I'd like to call attention to a few folks in the audience who are with us tonight, and you'll be seeing them more later as the weeks go by. First of all, I'd like him to stand up and for you to help me welcome our new mayor-elect, Cohen Barnes. Also, I don't see any of our aldermanic candidates here other than Mr. Perkins. You were a candidate. You don't have to stand up. People know you. Our new city clerk, Sasha Cohen, back here. Okay. Our first item on the agenda tonight is to approve tonight's agenda. This item is usually voted on a roll call and is approved. First of all, I would like to see if any of our council members want to delete or add any item to the agenda tonight. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Favor, seconded by Alderman McAdams. Discussion? Roll call.
Morris.
Yes.
Finucane.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkin.
Yes.
McAdam.
Yes.
Verbeek.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8-I.
Thank you. The agenda is approved as printed. We now move to the public participation portion of our program. We've had two folks submit letters to the city council for public participation, and both of those folks have asked me to read those letters. They pertain to two items on the agenda tonight. We also have a couple of folks who will be speaking as part of items on the agenda, and I will call them at the appropriate time. Our first letter is from Pam Verbeek, 803 North 10th Street, Dekalb. She'd like to address the council on the Resolution 2021-9 authorizing a professional services agreement with Stantec Architecture at a cost not to exceed $1,002,000. Pam's comments are thusly. Following the 12/14/20 council meeting, I sent an email to Brian Favor and Marcus Cox with additional information concerning the proposed Transit Authority building site on Dresser Road. At the 12/14/20 meeting, it was mentioned there is a marsh located on the property. In response to Alderman Morris, it was stated that the proposed construction would not affect the marsh or bike path. However, there is no way any construction in this area would not affect the marsh as well as the surrounding property. Runoff from a building and parking area would carry polluting deposits along with additional water, adding to the flooding nature of the entire area. Besides the marsh, there is a cornfield and tree line to the east of the property that floods every year, a cornfield next to the nearby water tower that becomes saturated to the point it cannot be planted until very late and partially floods after planting. Green space across from the fire station floods frequently and remains flooded sometimes for months. And the wet nature of the area extends across Dresser Road to the south. Has the city looked at whether this area is in a designated floodplain? I traveled to the DeKalb County Nursing Home nearly every day for 4.5 years and was very familiar with the traffic at various times of the day. Under normal circumstances, there are many school buses and students coming and going from the high school parking lot. There's traffic from the church, and there will be more traffic when the houses are built in the development by the high school. There are lots of kids and other pedestrians walking and not necessarily on the sidewalk. So in addition to the existing populations at DeKalb County Nursing Home, Health Department, Heritage Woods, Outreach Building, Veterans Administration, Dresser Court Apartments, and the fire station, there is the potential of many more residents. All this traffic in turn feeds onto North First Street. Even with no kids going to school, no activities at other locations, and less people working, there is still considerable traffic on North First Street. If any type of relevant traffic count or pedestrian count is to be done in connection with the proposed project, it would not be done accurately until normal circumstances return. I've got a marsh building under my mask. If the council is interested in attracting more people to DeKalb and seeing the construction of new homes, then it does not make sense to consider constructing a large commercial garage and bus parking lot in this area. Imagine the air quality from fumes caused by idling buses and more exhaust due to the increased bus traffic. This is certainly not an environmental friendly use of the property. This is an opportunity for the council to make the sensible decision to not approve this resolution and fees of over $1 million and move on to looking at more appropriate and cost-effective locations for this project. With all the obvious reasons for not building on this property, does the council really want to approve fees over $1 million to have someone else identify a fatal flaw with the Dresser Road site? Yes, the property is owned by the city, but the trade-offs would be the tremendous cost of flood mitigation, traffic and pedestrian concerns, and both air and water pollution. That letter from Pam Verbeek, 803 North 10th Street. The next public comment submitted online today is from Margaret Bassett, 730 Cambridge Place, Sycamore, Illinois, representing St. Vincent de Paul. I am not a resident of Dekalb, but I am part of a local nonprofit which gives financial assistance to persons in need, and frequently these persons are having trouble with housing. We provide rental assistance and employment guidance, among other help. We would like to ask the council to consider using some of the block grant money to provide housing specifically for families headed by women and in a cooperative setting. We believe that cooperative housing for these families could enable women to share resources and to access specific resources. This would be a novel housing situation in Dekalb, but we believe it would consolidate several programs. We, as a local charity, would also be pleased to do research into similar programs in other cities. That was regarding our agenda item on our CDBG block grant this evening, and that is from Margaret Bassett representing St. Vincent de Paul, and Margaret resides in Sycamore. Okay, before we move on to our presentations this evening, the other folks who've indicated they'd like to participate publicly have specific comments regarding the National Fair Housing Proclamation. Neely, Sasha, and Andrew. What I think I'll do is I'm going to read the proclamation, and then you can comment on that. Is that fair enough? Okay, very good. So we'll move now to presentations. Our first presentation is a proclamation on National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life, preservation of property, and public safety, and whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained by public safety communicators of the City of Dekalb Emergency Communication Center, and whereas telecommunicators are the single vital link among our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information and ensuring their safety. And whereas telecommunicators of the City of Dekalb have contributed substantially to appropriate public safety response, the apprehension of criminals, the suppression of fires, and the treatment of patients, and whereas each telecommunicator has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their duties during the past year, and whereas during this ongoing pandemic of COVID-19, our telecommunicators have once again been the first line of defense in sending help to those in need. And whereas the week of April 11 to 17, 2021 has been designated as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week by the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials and recognized nationally by proclamation of the United States Congress, therefore I, Jerry Smith, Mayor of the City of Dekalb, do hereby declare local recognition and celebration of National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week from April 11 through 17 in honor of the women and men whose diligence and professionalism help keep the City of Dekalb and its first responders informed of emergencies and safe from harm. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Dekalb to be affixed this 12th day of April 2021. A coordinator for our telecommunicators is Sean Woyna. Sean is going to accept this proclamation from our city manager, Bill Nicholas. And I know there is going to be a picture on this proclamation and also on the next one. So after the proclamation is presented, you folks can take a picture, okay? Bill, if you'd make that presentation to Mr. Woyna, please.
John, in behalf of the city council and the mayor and all of us who work with you, thank you for all the efforts that you put in and all the efforts of our telecommunicators. Thank you very much.
Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of all telecommunicators, the government men that I work with on a daily basis, 24/7. Sorry. Used to having my own microphone on my head. Thank you all very much for this recognition. We truly appreciate it. We work 24/7, 365, keeping our city as safe as possible, taking the calls that nobody wants to.
Fair housing in general. Whereas the city of DeKalb finds that safe and affordable housing is part of the American dream and a goal of all Illinois residents, and whereas individuals in the state of Illinois have the right to choose where to live, purchase, or rent property without discrimination based on race, color, religion, age, sex, family status, marital status, national origin, national ancestry, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, military status, unfavorable military discharge, and order of protection status, and whereas federal and state laws affirm the right of every person to equal housing opportunity, and whereas fair housing is a positive community good, and whereas economic stability, community health, and human relations in all communities and the state of Illinois are improved by diversity and integration, and whereas the talents of nonprofit organizations, housing service providers, financial institutions, elected officials, state agencies, and others must be combined to promote and preserve integration, fair housing, and equal opportunity, whereas realtors locally and nationally pledge to provide equal professional service without regard to the race, color, religion, sex, handicap, family status, or national origin of any prospective client, customer, or of residents of any community, whereas realtors locally and nationally pledge to affirmatively pursue business practices that will ensure that everyone is welcome and no one is excluded, whereas realtors locally and nationally have incorporated affirmative fair housing practices into the Realtor Code of Ethics by which all realtors must abide. Now therefore, the City of DeKalb, Illinois does hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as National Fair Housing Month to establish our community as an open and inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promote appropriate activities by private and public entities intended to provide or advocate for integration and equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of our county. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the City of DeKalb to be affixed this 12th day of April 2021. Neely Erickson, if you'd come forward, and Bill Nicholas will make this presentation on behalf of the City of DeKalb.
Diane Hammond joined us.
Right, I see Diane Hammond there. I didn't hear Diane Hammond, which is a surprise.
Well, just so you won't be disappointed, Jay. I just said that was the longest declaration that I've ever seen in the world, and especially in DeKalb.
Thank you, Diane and Neely, appreciate it. Okay, we do have a couple of folks who would like to speak to this item tonight, and the first one is Andrew Tillotson. And Sasha, you are on deck.
Appreciate giving us the cue order there. No, so I've been here before. I'm Andrew. I'm with Sunrise Dekalb. I'm a member of the Tenants Association. I'm a lot of things here in Dekalb. And I wanted to speak on behalf of how moving that proclamation was. I think really every word in there is one I fully agree with. I'm not here to dispute that fair housing is good. That would be ridiculous. I really hope no one in this room doesn't want fair housing, and if so, I would love to talk to you afterwards. What I wanted to get to, though, was the fact that there are a lot of things that I believe, and I know many people here in the council believe from talking to them, and many people behind me who will soon assume these positions, and many people around here in the city of DeKalb would agree, could be done to make housing truly fair in this city. In particular, there are many issues at properties here in DeKalb in terms of the water coming out brown, in terms of there being less than agreeable conditions. It is with my work on behalf of Sunrise DeKalb that we have talked to many of the city council members here and other people in the community about remedies for this. There is a matter of giving tenants protections, saying to their landlord, hello, I do not have to pay my lease until I have safe drinking water, right, as a sort of protection for those tenants. So they have some sort of leverage in negotiations. They don't keep dealing with these unfair conditions, because this is not a small problem. I have seen pictures, quite frankly, that are disturbing, that are gross, and that I know no one that cares enough to run for public office wants to see in their city, quite frankly. And I think this is a declaration on behalf of myself and a lot of the organizations that I'm in that I mentioned. We will be back. We really want to work with you on making sure that fair housing and conditions in DeKalb are truly, truly present. Because at present, I don't believe we meet every criteria mentioned in that really beautiful and well-put proclamation. So thank you all for hearing me out, and I look forward to coming back. Let's make this not only a fair housing month, but always keep in mind that there are many, many, many renters here in DeKalb. They make up a great portion of our community, whether they're people renting and going to IU, which is a part of the lifeblood of DeKalb, or simply just renting and working here and living in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Sasha Cohen.
Hi, I'm Sasha Cohen of the 800 block of Edgebrook. I echo a lot of what Andrew said. The text of the resolution and the ideals that it espouses are beautiful. Fair housing, equally accessible to all without discrimination or preference to race, to gender identity, to sexual orientation. Those are all such important things. But words are cheap. Words don't mean much. If we can issue proclamations, but we can't take the necessary steps to ensure that there is fair housing in this city, that people don't live with 16 square feet of solid black mold on their living room wall, that people don't have ceilings collapsing in, that people feel safe going to sleep at night without having their doors tried to kick in, that people feel that they can go inside for the night without worrying if their landlord will illegally tow their vehicle. If we don't have that, we don't have fair housing in this city. And I question why we would want to proclaim this Fair Housing Month rather than taking this month to focus on actual, tangible policy changes and policy solutions that will advance what allegedly is our shared goal of seeing fair housing here in DeKalb. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha. Appreciate it. Okay, that concludes the public participation part of tonight's program. Now we.
I filled out a slip to speak to fair housing.
Oh, yes. Would you like to speak to it? I'm sorry, Neely. I thought you were simply going to accept it, so I'm sorry.
No problem. I'll be quick, I promise. So good evening, Mayor Smith, and thank you for allowing me a few moments to address you and the DeKalb Council members. I am Neely Erickson, Illinois Realtors Local Government Affairs Director, representing Hometown Association of Realtors. I am joined here today with Diane Harmon. We are here today to thank you for recognizing April as Fair Housing Month with your proclamation and share a little information about Realtor efforts to affirmatively further fair housing. April is Fair Housing Month, which is especially important to the real estate industry. We honor this month to express our recommitment to expanding equal access to housing opportunities for all. As an industry, we recognize our history and involvement that contributed to both segregation and discrimination. We recognize we must continue efforts to affirmatively further fair housing because discrimination still exists today. As an industry, we refuse to tolerate non-compliance to fair housing. A realtor can face thousands of dollars in fines. They can lose their license to practice real estate in any state forever. Individuals who believe that they are a victim of a fair housing violation can file a grievance with the U.S. Department of Human Rights, also with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, with the Illinois Department of Human Rights, and also through the Illinois Realtors Ombudsman Program, and that is merely a few locations. In addition, we do have fair housing as a core part of our continuing education. Also, National Association of Realtors has created an interactive training simulation program that puts realtors in positions that they will face regarding fair housing so that we can ensure that the response is appropriate and the further advocacy efforts are there. Furthermore, the National Association of Realtors adopted within our industry code of ethics a prohibition from using harassing hate speech, epithets, and slurs, and that is not just while engaged in real estate activities. Finally, many of the ordinance, zoning, and legislative issues that we advocate for and educate elected officials on are rooted in the promotion of equal housing opportunities and inclusion for all. We recognize that proclamations and advertisements cannot end discrimination. It will only be through accountability, culture change, and continued fair housing training with all of us working together. If at any time you have any questions regarding real estate policies, we stand ready to provide our perspective. And to that end, thank you for recognizing April as Fair Housing Month and for the representation of the constituents of the city of DeKalb. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Neely. I think I can speak on behalf of this group of city council. And these are not just words. We take very seriously the comments from our public. And on this particular topic, very, very important to all of us in this room and in this community, we appreciate your comments, and we will work hard as your city government to do what we can so that those points that were proclaimed in the Fair Housing Proclamation are in fact adhered to, and we listen to the public. So thank you. And I hope I can speak on behalf of everybody up here when I say that. So thank you for your comments. Now, our next presentation is a presentation of a check for $19,500 to the city of DeKalb from the Kishwaukee Kiwanis Club to partially fund the Fairview Drive bike path. Tonight, we have several members of our Kishwaukee Kiwanis Club on hand who will be joined by our city engineer, Zach Gill, in not only presenting but accepting this $19,500 check. Before we do that, I'd like to ask a member of our club who's also a member of your city council, a retiring longtime Second Ward Alderman Bill Finucane, who is also a member of Kishwaukee Kiwanis, to make a few brief remarks. And then, Bill, if you would introduce those folks who are going to come up and make this presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been in Kishwaukee Kiwanis about 35 years now myself, and one of the primary projects at the club, even prior to my joining, has been the bike path in DeKalb. And Sue's going to speak more to of its origins and that, but I want to talk to the genesis of this donation. You may recall that several years ago that there was an individual on a bicycle who was going to work in the morning on Fairview that was killed in a traffic accident. And so within our club, we talked about, there are no bike paths out there. Maybe that'd be a good idea to try and do something. So as our club got together, as we've built up reserves over the years, that we decided that would be the next phase that we wanted to go to. So we began a conversation with the city and with DSATs about how could we make this happen. And so the check that our club members are going to present provides part of the local matching funds for the other monies that will become available to us. So I'd like to introduce, first of all, our current club president, Jenny Marshall, past president, Sue Dubler, and another past president, Herb Buer, who is the chair of our Bike Path Committee.
Am I live?
Yes.
I got roped into talking, so we've all been introduced already. So we are from Kishwaukee, Kiwanis, and in 1971, the Pathway Committee was formed. Herb Buer was the original chair of that committee, and they began work on a pathway through Dekalb. At this point, it starts in Hopkins Park. It goes all the way south down to Lions Park, through going through Huber Park, Prairie Park, and now it goes under 38 and under the railroad track. So thank you very much for helping get that done. Over the years, we've spent over $400,000 on this bike path, and as Bill said, a couple of years ago we had that accident out on Fairview Drive. So now we're trying to get a bike path out there, and the city's working on that, and the project is going to start this year, from my understanding. So today, Kishwaukee Kiwanis is going to donate $19,500 to the city as seed money towards that, and my understanding is there's a federal grant that's going to be matching it with like 4 times the amount, so it'll be quite a bit of money to help with that. So this bike path is very important because in addition to helping with recreation and healthy options for our city, it's going to make sure those employees to the distribution centers can get to work safely when they're walking and riding their bikes. And just so everybody knows, most of the money used to come from our haunted house that we did. Now it comes from our Biking with Beansy ride. And just so everybody knows, Biking with Beansy is on this year. It will be Sunday, July 18th. And you can go to our website at www.kishkiwanis.org to get further information on how to register to go to that ride. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, I'd like to ask Zach Gill to come up, our city engineer. Zach's been very, very helpful with Herb Buer, our pathway chairman, and others in working out the logistics of this. And Bill, I appreciate you introducing other members of our club. Zach, you may have a couple comments, and then all of you, I know, I'd like you to get a picture up front here with City Manager Nicholas. Zach?
Sure, we'll get down to the basics. First, this path will connect at 7th Street there at Fairview, and it will extend to Maycomb Drive. One of the things us engineers love is what we call a logical point of termini, and this thing is a real sweet spot. There is a path on Maycomb. We can connect right to that. We can also establish a nice platform so we can continue to hop across those drives. We have our wonderful corporate citizens there all along Fairview, and we're going to work our way down. And timing is key because as we look to the Peace Road corridor and look to grow, we can connect to new pathways and connect back up. So it's a wonderful Rosetta Stone, I think, that we've got here.
Well, it's a wonderful gift from the Kishwaukee Kiwanis Club, and as Sue's alluded to, it allowed us to leverage 4 times the gift, so it's about $100,000 that this gift is able to help us. So Bill, if you would get in the middle of the room, and Sue, if you could congregate your folks, Zach, get up here. Bill, where are you? Why don't you go down there?
Well, you too, Jerry.
Yeah, okay.
Face the photographer. And we'll wait for Bill.
Bill, I'm going to stay up here so I can get the meeting going on as soon as the picture is taken. Thank you, Kishwaukee Kiwanis. Okay, there are no appointments tonight. That is the first item on your agenda. If you recall, I had asked both Cohen Barnes and Carolyn Morris prior to the election that while I had a couple of folks that I thought would be good fits for a couple of boards and commissions, I've shared those names with both of them. And Cohen will now have those, and he will make the decision on how we want to proceed with those appointments going forward. Just for the sake of everyone here, this city council will be sitting as city council through the last meeting in April. On May 10th, we will convene, at which time I will call the meeting to order and then turn the gavel over to Mayor-elect Barnes with at least one new city councilman. Barb Larson appears to be the victor in the second ward. Bill will relinquish his seat. And Greg, your race is awfully close. I think you're leading by 4 votes right now, so you may be back. You'll be back anyway. We'll see what happens in that 4th ward. And congratulations to Mike Verbeek, you were re-elected, right?
Yes.
You didn't have any competition. Okay, very good. Okay, again, I want to just congratulate Cohen Barnes and Carolyn, our first ward alderman, for the civility with which you both conducted your campaign. It was just great. And Carolyn, it's going to be great to have you continue on as city council and representing the first ward. You've done an exemplary job serving your folks up there. So thank you. Thanks, Cohen. Okay, so that gets the item F out of the way. Item G, consent agenda. For the benefit of those watching tonight, in most cases, our consent agenda is approved by one motion in omnibus form, unless any members of our city council would like any item on the consent agenda to be removed. Do we have any folks who would like to delete any items on our consent agenda? If not, I'd first of all entertain a motion and a second, and then I will read the consent agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman Morris. Discussion? Roll call.
Mayor Smith, you'll be wanting to read the item?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Thank you, Lynn. Yes, the consent agenda is, the one we're voting on tonight is as follows. Number 1, minutes of the March 22, 2021 regular city council meeting. Number 2, accounts payable and payroll through April 12, 2021 in the amount of $2,202,146.09. Number 3, the Dekalb Chamber of Commerce 2020 Annual Report to Council. Number 4, the Dekalb County Economic Development Corporation, DCEDC, 2020 Annual Report to the Council. Number 5, the Dekalb County Convention and Visitors Bureau, 2020 Annual Report to Council. And 5, the Dekalb Municipal Band, 2020 Annual Report to Council. So, having a motion on the floor and a second, roll call now, please.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkin,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 ayes.
Thank you. That consent agenda is approved as printed. I'd like to just make a comment. I know our city council folks, our aldermen, have all read some of the material, but in the background material, each and every week that we post to our website, folks have the opportunity to see what's on the consent agenda. And tonight, for example, the Dekalb Chamber of Commerce had provided a 6-page report. DCEDC had provided a 24-page report. DeKalb County Convention and Visitors Bureau had presented an 18-page report to us with all their activities from 2020, and the Dekalb Municipal Band had a 3-page report, including the fact that on June 8th of this year at 7:30, the Dekalb Municipal Band will open its 2021 season at Hopkins Park. So a lot of material, a lot of good collaborative efforts on the part of organizations helping the city of DeKalb move forward. Bill, you're raising your hand. Please get the mic up close to your mouth, please.
This is just about right, I'm told.
Okay.
So I just wanted to point out that Paul Bork, the DCDC Executive Director, is in the audience tonight in case anybody had any questions about their 20-odd page report.
Okay. So Paul Boric, who is Executive Director of the DeKalb County Economic and Development Corporation, been very, very helpful as we have really, really knocked it out of the park in terms of economic development during the last couple of years. Does anybody have any questions of Paul? If not, thank you, Paul, for that report. It was very, very good, very colorful, as were the other reports. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, now we move along to public hearings. We do have one public hearing tonight. This is a public hearing on the 2021 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan. And I open this public hearing at 6:42 p.m. With some background on that, City Manager Nicholas.
Thank you, Mayor. There's adequate background, I believe, for our purposes tonight, but the principal reason for this is to let the public be heard, and so I'll be very brief. The Community Development Block Grant Program requires a 5-year action plan, and the council approved our current 5-year plan back in February of 2020. So this is the annual plan, the 1-year plan for the federal fiscal year of April 1 to March 31, April 1 of 2021 to March 31 of 2022. Their fiscal year is a little different than ours. You'll see laid out in a table on page 3 of your background tonight the proposed allocation of both carryover and new 2021 funds that we expect in the amount of the total of the two, $509,458, but the new allocation would be $420,572. So I'll stop there. There is a resolution on your agenda tonight to seek your approval.
Are there any members of the public who would like to comment on this public hearing on the 2021 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan? Again, the background, quite a bit is contained in the background information accessible off of our website. Okay, no action is needed, and at this point, we will be having this as an item on the agenda in just a bit. So I will close this public hearing at 6:45. Now we move along to considerations. Consideration of a staff report on the status of 5G regulation in DeKalb. City Manager Nicholas.
Back in August of 2020, we had some conversation about how 5G installations might be regulated, and I want to thank Alderman Verbeek for prompting that discussion, and we had some general discussion at that point, and we were at that time aware that the current state level action or act that tends to regulate what local government can do was going to sunset or expire on June 1st of this year, and so we were interested in what our state legislators might do. It turns out we're informed through our Illinois Municipal League that there are at least a half a dozen bills that have been introduced here in the last month and a half. There is almost certainly going to be a successor act to this one that is sunsetting, and
whatever is done will not change a couple of things. Federal regulation now prevails over the bandwidth questions at the state level. Our ability as a municipality to impose fees for small wireless facilities is very severely constrained. But there still are some areas that local governments can act in, and part of that is the aesthetics of what goes up, whether it's on a pole or on the side of a building or a roof of a building, and whether it can happen in historic districts and so forth, as I pointed out in my background. So what I've recommended is that we watch this very carefully. In the next 6 to 8 weeks, there will be a new framework, and we are fortunate that our city attorneys have worked on this particular topic over the years. In fact, I have a colleague now who has participated in the drafting of the current law, which is going to be sunsetting. So we feel that we have some experience and talent to draw from, and we'll certainly be watching what happens. The Municipal League is also watching what's happening, and we'll have something to discuss probably in July of this year, and if it's agreeable to you, we will bring this topic back. But at this point, also happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so basically, before discussion, what City Manager Nicholas is looking for now is simply consensus. If we have that tonight, that we should simply wait for to see what some of our local options are as it relates to 5G legislation, especially after the Illinois legislature recesses in the spring session. Comments, please, or questions? Alderman Verbeek.
I'd just say thanks for the background work, very helpful. And yes, we're certainly waiting for House Bills 2561 through 2565 with those results. But I think in the meantime, we need to certainly do everything we can to make sure that any kind of deployment is well vetted by the City Council and the community. The primary concerns that I have are related to the unknown health aspects of a 5G deployment. So we're talking about a lot more radiation, and it's been proven that levels of radiation can certainly harm not only humans but environmental factors over time. And certainly the city has insurance, but I think what's key is that any company that's interested in a 5G deployment in the city of DeKalb should have the necessary insurance to protect everyone. Again, this is if we allow 5G, if we're forced to allow 5G, if we want 5G, is they need to have that insurance to protect our community so that it's not on the backs of the city of DeKalb if there is some type of a health harmful effect that is found in the future. Also, alternatives. Certainly we're well underway with the fiber deployment over at Annie Glidden North. That's another great option for the city of DeKalb, is to continue that effort of fiber optic distribution and infrastructure throughout the city, rather than rely on a telco company coming in and deploying a 5G system. So I look forward to these discussions.
Alderman Favor.
So I've already spoken a little bit with the city manager, but I don't think we have a choice. I think the federal government has already signed, the FCC has already committed to deploying 5G. In fact, I've got an article that I can share with the council, and we can add it with the other things I was talking about. But it talks about, how to proactively meet the challenge of the 5G deployment. The federal government has taken away some of our zoning rights. They've told us we have to approve a permit within 60 days And if it's a multiple installation, I think it's 90 days. So it's coming now. What can we do as a municipality? And I was looking at different installations, and if you go out and look at, certain antennas and things like that, I mean, some are just ugly. They're just terrible. And, we've done the downtown area, we've gotten rid of all the above-ground power lines and telephone lines and things like that. And with the deployment of this, I'd like to see what we can do. What sort of zoning regulations, aesthetics can we put into, to protect what we have. And in neighborhoods I saw in Houston, Texas, they're even, where you don't have a telephone pole to put one of these on, well, then they put, basically like a street light power box in the parkway in front of your house. So I don't think, when those start showing up, and so that's, that's another question, because the document only talked about, hanging boxes on light poles and telephone poles, but what about the areas of town that have very minimal light poles or telephone poles? Where are we going to deploy, or what are they going to do for that? And I think that's where we're going to start seeing the ground boxes. But I don't think there's a lot that the city can do in terms of negating the deployment of 5G. I think we just have to work as smartly as we can in order to, protect or to say how we want it to look within our community.
Thank you, Alderman Favor. Yeah, from my vantage point, both points brought out by Alderman Verbeek and Alderman Favor make sense as we see the rollout of 5G. Any other comments? Is there consensus then? You can shake your head that we should just continue to monitor this, see what our options may be after the legislature recesses and after we do more research. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we move along to resolutions. The first one, Resolution 2021-027, approving the Community Development Block Grant 2021 Annual Action Plan for Program Year 28, which is April 1, 2021 to March 31, 2022. Is that a 5G microphone there? Okay. As we switch those out, I'd entertain a motion to approve this resolution, please.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderman Favor. City Manager Nicholas, please.
Nothing to add to my comments in the public hearing portion of the meeting, except to thank our Community Services Coordinator, Joanne Rouse, for her continuing stewardship of this very important program. It helps a lot of people in our community. We're very happy to have it.
I'll second that and third that, Joanne. Joanne Rouse back here, you do just a wonderful job in administering our CDBG program and so many of the other community service programs. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 aye.
Thank you. That resolution is approved. Number 2, Resolution 2021-028, authorizing the sale of real property located at 624 North 11th Street. That's PIN 08-23-209-003 in the amount of $64,500. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Alderman Favor, seconded by Alderman Morris. City Manager Nicholas.
Thank you, Mayor. Back in the spring of 2019, the council, as it was then constituted, had recommended that the city administration proceed to sell surplus property, and incrementally, we've been doing that over the last couple of years. This is one of the last single-family home sites. There is a small two-story single-family home on this property. It was seriously damaged when the power went off, and cold weather, water damaged floors, the heating system, some walls, and kitchen appliances, basement appliances, and the first estimate we got was somewhere north of $20,000 to repair this, and then we decided to look at what this cost might be, and the agency that's been helping us sell this property, these surplus properties, had pegged this at around $65,000. It's clearly a fixer-upper, and there's a lot to fix. But there is an erstwhile interested party here, and I bring this to you with a recommendation to proceed to approve this so that we can then take it to a closing with our city attorneys.
Okay, discussion. Alderman Morris.
I just want to ask how we might have acquired this property in the first place. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's been some years, predates me. It was originally a house that was used as an officer in residence. It's a program that was created in 2014, maybe earlier than that. Bob might know better than me, but sometime around then. Bob, do you remember when that was created?
I would say about 2012.
12, okay. And we had at least one, maybe two officers who were in there. It's not been used for that for a while.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Again, there was quite a bit of background information on this, and I appreciate that. Roll call.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 aye.
Thank you. That resolution is approved. Number 3, Resolution 2021-029, authorizing a professional services agreement with Stantec Architecture, Inc. for architectural and engineering design of a transit maintenance and operations facility in an amount not to exceed $1,002,000. We did have one public participant, Ms. Verbic, whose comments were read as it relates to this particular resolution, and I will now ask City Manager Nicholas to make any remarks.
It's just a couple of remarks, and I'm the beneficiary of some further conversation since this this background report was distributed back on Thursday, so I will speak to a couple of other things as well, but I will say that I agree with the writer who, among other things, commented on the large number. You may recall I did the same at the last regular meeting, and it is a large number. Interestingly, in these matters, and considering our heavy reliance on federal and state funding, we are required to have consulting assistance in the design work and the preparation of bid documents, and ultimately in the supervision of the construction. So this is a project that has a history with the council. It predates me, in fact, going back into 2018, the topic of finding a place to have one facility that would not only house the tremendous assets that the city had at that point, we have some more now, but also the personnel who are involved in the operation and the supervision and the administration of our transit system. So a little more recently, back in May of 2019, the city, at the recommendation of the city staff, the city council authorized us to go ahead and request qualifications from engineering firms to do the architectural engineering and construction management services. And more specifically, what have I outlined in your background on page 7, site selection was one of those key pieces, as well as preparation of some preliminary documents and a detailed cost estimate to be brought then back to the council so you could decide, is this the right place? Is this the right design? Is conceptual design, is this the right price, considering what we anticipate in the way of state and federal funding? And then just as recently as this mid-December of 2020, we posed some possibilities, and the council directed us to focus the site selection on the city-owned Dresser Road parcel, because we need about 15 acres. That's not a controversial area designation, and the cost of bare land, especially if people know the city's looking to come buying, is somewhere around $40,000 an acre and up. So that's $600,000. It was a big number, and I think that affected not only the staff recommendation, but probably also the council direction. So we proceeded to create a contract with Stantec, which was the lowest qualified person to, or company to stand up and come forward to help us with this process. And I've highlighted in the background the fact that we are asking them to look very carefully at this particular proposed site that the city owns off of Dresser Road. And if they've completed their detailed analysis, which includes obviously the buses coming and going, and both in the early morning and in the evening, and then also on routes that traverse on Dresser Road and adjacent streets. Also having more employees in the area, what the vehicular access and traffic is going to be, and drainage, which was also pointed out by the interested writer this evening, and soils and historical resources and all the rest of that. If their recommendation to you was acceptable, then the council would be committed to proceeding, and if it wasn't, then we would look at other things. I did also have an opportunity to talk to Marcus Cox, because when I learned that there might be some second thoughts about whether this is the right place or not, I was curious to know what we already are confident about in terms of bus travel on Dresser. So I thought that might be interesting. I just mentioned this to you. Now, I'm not talking about school buses. I'm talking about the commercial route buses. So there is a route right now that provides service that serves Sycamore Road, Annie Glidden North neighborhood, and also the NIU campus, Route 18. It goes both east-west and west-east along Dresser Road between Normal and North First Street for each of its laps. The buses that operate do so on a daily basis, about 25 service hours a day, and that means that they're traveling one way or another about 50 times a day, 7 days a week on Dresser Road. And I don't notice them, but others I'm sure do. The proposed transit facility location would, according to our internal analysis, obviously increase motorist traffic. There will be people going to work and coming home from work. Most of that traffic for the buses would continue to be on Annie Glidden, as the buses, many of the buses start their day at the Home Student Center. So you travel down Annie Glidden, go across on Lucinda to that locus, and then at the end of the day would probably go back the same way. However, there would still be about 20%, our estimate currently, and this is not based on the analysis that we would potentially be paying for, about 20% of the fixed route buses would travel still west to east or east to west on Dresser Road. So I just thought I'd throw that into the conversation tonight. We are recommending in the background that we proceed to a contract with Stantec. However, if the council feels otherwise, I did want to check with Marcus to see if what this does if it had a deleterious effect on federal funding or state funding, if there was some time window they were aiming at to get a contract done and get things moving, and it does not. So the council has latitude tonight, apart from any financial considerations, to consider whether you want to table this or move forward with it, and we'd be very pleased to know what the council would like to do.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager Nicholas. Had I asked for a motion to bring this to the floor?
No.
Okay. Thank you, City Clerk Fazekas. I knew you'd catch me had I not, but you and I were thinking along the same lines. So I'd like a motion, please, to bring this to the floor, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Was that you, Bill? Or was that
Tracy.
you? Tracy, okay. It's been moved by Alderman Favor, seconded by Alderman Smith, that we consider this resolution authorizing the professional services agreement. We have heard one citizen letter written regarding this proposal. City Manager Nicholas has provided his background, both verbally and in the words that he's provided in terms of the background to us. Now I'd open it up for any comments or discussion. Alderman Fanouken and then Alderman Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, when we first discussed this back in December, I expressed some opposition to this site. Part of it was a wetland. Part of it, though, was really I'm not sure it's the best location for it. I know that earlier the county had offered some land, but I understand they've withdrawn that offer just south of Tails. You know, with this being next to the Iron Gate property, I'm not sure how welcome that's going to make that portion on the west end of Iron Gate. You know, how it's going to impact any potential build-out of that site. I realize that Chodine has not been very active out there other than the building of the church, but again, I'm just not sure this is the best spot. I think a location maybe along Peace Road may be better. You know, VAC, when I was on their board, talked about that they were pretty centrally located for their service area, and if we could look back towards that or along Peace Road, we might be better suited in terms of being able to get across town and not impact the residential area.
Thank you, Alderman Fanouken. Alderman Morris.
I'm persuaded to think the same as Alderman Fanouken has just stated. I think what we're going to see if we choose to, and I apologize to this to the city manager because we did support this back in December. So I want to be clear that my mind has been changed since that time, and I think that there could be other locations that are better. And I think that, as Alderman Fanouken has pointed out, I think the negative impact on future surrounding real estate could be extremely significant. And I think the positive impact of, you know, the natural space as it is with a nice little trail in there and the only trees for miles as it is right now adds a lot of value potentially to the future of a real estate build out. That increased value increases our tax base, increases you know, return on investment of every single one of those properties. So I think that's a really significant factor in this decision. I do think that we need to reconsider the location and probably look at a more industrial spot. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Morris. Any other comments? Alderman Smith.
Yeah, I did second this. I was curious to how council was going to, I wanted to generate some discussion rather than let this go. And thank you both for that. I'm not overly pleased with this location. I guess like Alderman Fanouken, working in the transit, I do want to see our vehicles under roof sooner than later. That is, it's extremely hard on our equipment. Again, I'd like to see it more in the central, I guess, if possible, but, you know, I guess we have to weigh all our options. Another thing that I was concerned about and brought to my attention, but I don't have an answer on from anyone, is how that marshland was created, if it was naturally there or created long ago when the county home was actually built. And I know I'm probably dating myself like 40 years, but again, I don't know if that's maybe something, and I'm sure knowing the pros in this, the engineers can probably answer that for me. And I see Zach getting up to answer my questions, maybe anticipation.
Yeah, it's more man-made than it's natural. There is some natural topography to that. Currently, part of the problem is there are drainage structures that are actually ruptured and not fully functioning. So you would see that land drain. And I'm not advocating for this either way. I'm just saying, hypothetically, when you develop that site, then you would be able to create a small retention basin as well as actually fix the outfall pipes, work with the normal drainage district for the surrounding agricultural land. And so it could be effectively, whether it's this or anything, it could be effectively developed. It's not delineated as a wetland by the state or federal government, and it is not in a floodplain of the Kishwaukee River.
Would that relieve some of our, you know, the fire station up there, I think the chief will probably agree, the water sometimes gets to their front door. I mean, would something, a development up there relieve that issues as well as the water tower issues? You know, I know there's a lot of water around it.
It would be similar to what we see in the south side of town here. You all know what that field looked like before Ferrara came. With proper management of that, you would actually see an improvement to other impacted properties.
Would that tie into the one that's, I think you brought forward, you had cleaned out on the new church development on Annie? Would those all tie together, or where would the drainage run at that point?
It's supposed to go to the northeast. So that woodland area to the north that people have referenced is actually a wetland conservation area. So that would not be impacted as part of this. We would stay on about the 12 acres to the south of that if it would ever be developed for any purpose. So it actually continues, it skirts right under the corner of that, under the path, and works its way northeast. And I assume it probably chases back and forth to eventually catch the Kish as it goes north. So again, that's why we'd have to partner with the drainage district, who has some authority in the extra jurisdictional areas of ours, but yeah.
Thank you, Zach.
Alderman Verbeek.
Yeah, just looking at the backup, you know, where this is located, right in the middle of residential, even could be a great recreational site at some point where, you know, whether it's a partnership with the park district, it seems like there's the potential for that. But I would agree with my colleagues on council that I have no objection to Stantec services whatsoever, but from a standpoint of location, this is not good. Also, great ideas as far as where it could be, but I think most importantly, I would like it on a main arterial road that is better prepared to handle this kind of traffic. There's a lot of school bus traffic already on Dresser, and if we put it on a main arterial like a county or state location, could we have more collaboration with the county or state on what those infrastructure needs could be, whether that's a traffic signal or curb or more pavement, turn lanes, I'm not sure, but just trying to minimize the impact on the city of DeKalb taxpayers.
Further discussion. Alderman Smith.
I guess I might as well bring it up. If this is turned down tonight, what is our next steps? How far behind do we get? I guess I'll ask the proverbial question.
Well, I was just thinking the same and going to make a suggestion to you, if I may. But before I do, because there are a couple ways you can go, can I ask, is there any interest in further analysis of this site? Does anybody
No.
feel strongly?
Is there any, does anyone on council feel strongly that this is the best site for this particular facility?
Okay, I can see that, thank you very much, and that's clear enough. So, so here's my suggestion. So Stantec has been through, for a year now, kind of standing by, now we're ready for a decision, and we're gonna change and go in another direction, fine. We don't have, if we had all the in-house time, we have one city engineer and he's magnificent, he was just up here. But, we've got street maintenance programs, we've got all the new development and the review of every new house plan, and so doesn't have time to do exhaustive studies of the other potential options, which right now we're sort of back, kind of where do we begin, that kind of thing. So, what I'd recommend is that we go talk to Stantec, and if they're interested, that we, and before we ask them, we don't want them, it's not fair to ask them to do free service for us to get us back to this point again. So why don't we ask them for a proposal to come up with 3 or 4 options, very generally described, some general pros and cons, and that will be a price, and we'll bring that back to you as a working contract. And from there, we decide finally which is the best, and then proceed to all the rest of the geometrics and so forth, the turn lanes, the lights, environmental impacts, the whole thing. So we'll start with probably a very small contract compared to what you had on your table tonight. But I think that's fair because we have been working with them. They've actually been giving us a lot
So
of free service.
logistically, we could defeat this proposal tonight and then direct you to ask them to come up with a number of options.
And then bring it back to you.
Right.
And we'll bring back a contract offer to you that will define what their scope would be. It's going to be a different scope of work, obviously, and now we're going to go back a few steps and define some possible sites, and that will be the scope of that work.
Does that make sense? I think Alderman Morris, you wanted to say something, and then Alderman Perkins. Alderman Perkins, she is deferring to you. Take that chance. Okay.
Right. So in essentially that RFP, we would be defining what it is that we're looking for in the site, then, right? Because in this process, I think we just kind of
I think maybe a half
evolved to
step
this.
behind that yet, because we haven't picked a site, right? So we have to right now come up with some options for you and reasons for their selection as potential sites. And if you're, and there will be a proposal for what is involved in the engineering of that, okay? That's what I would bring back to you. And if you authorize that, then we will have a work product to bring back to you, and that will say, here are the sites. Now, and there'll be a presentation, and what do you think? Can we narrow it down to 1, or is it 2, and is there more work? So we're going to incrementally come back to where we are tonight, which is with 1 site and the future engineering.
But we're going to define what we're looking for in the
Yes.
site.
Yes.
That's what we'll give them, or we're looking for these elements for the site.
Well, and maybe, so there are 2 ways to do it. We give it to them, we say, okay, look at the universe around us here. It's going to be in the city of Dekalb, and it's going to be on some arterial or close to an arterial, and those basic conditions which they already are aware of. And then we could do a workshop with them. But at this point, what I'd suggest is they have been working around the area. They probably have an idea of some sites, and we
Okay.
could come back to you just with their proposal, not with their sites, but their proposal to go and do some investigation for X days and bring it back to you. That's what we're looking at. And I don't know what that would cost, but it's not going to be $1 million. It's going to be a
Right.
fraction of that.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Alderman Morris, would you like to respond to that?
Sure, all I was going to say was that I'd be willing to make that motion
Okay.
to
Thank you.
do as the city manager has suggested.
Thank you. Alderman Verbeek and then Alderman Favor.
What kind of groundwork could we do to help, I guess, make the process more efficient? In other words, from a standpoint of defining what part of the city, I think each of us in our wards could see what would work, what wouldn't work. So is there anything that could be gained from us further discussing this or looking at the city at large and saying, well, this is good, this is not good, then making a list for Stantec rather than the opposite, I guess?
Well, by subtraction, we already have a pretty solid list of do's and don'ts, right?
Mhm.
We don't want to disturb natural wetland. We don't want to create traffic snarls. We don't want to have, earlier somebody said we don't want emissions in the vicinity of residential property. Then there are more fundamental things which we didn't touch on tonight, but I think you would all agree. If the running time from a distant point to the starting point for the route is extraordinary, that doesn't qualify. I mean, we looked at 2 county sites which are over on Peace Road north of or in the vicinity of Barber Green. They have to start at the home student center. So, 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes? So we're operating a transit system, right? So how do you qualify that? Even if we got the money or the land for free, how do you qualify that? So somewhere closer in, and are they going to traverse roads that are already in pretty bad shape and will never be designed and constructed to withstand bus traffic day in and day out? You know, we were just talking about Dresser Road. I doubt that it was ever made for 50 trips with a full-size Husky Line bus, but it's holding up. But how long will it hold up? And wherever we decide might be. So these are, I would say what they come back with are this list for you. Here's what we consider, we're guessing, but in our prospectus of work and scope, these are the things that we think you want to take seriously. You want to add a few or whatever, and then we come to a contract and then they're off. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Favor.
You pretty much answered mine. I was going to make some suggestions. I didn't know if it would be, obviously that's too far away, but the airport, I think Bill had mentioned the airport. You know, this could be a transportation hub or a synergy with the airport and with the bus facility, and you could then move the rental cars might move there because you're going to have so much traffic.
If we can move the airport closer to the home student center.
Those runways don't move that
It doesn't
easily.
work.
Yeah.
But, so they'd have to go over Peace Road to 7th all the way over, and then Hillcrest and.
Well, and I was thinking, you know, Peace Road to 38, or I even thought like, you know, Park 88, because you got, you know, we're gonna widen Peace Road, and you've got Fairview, and you've got 38. So those are fairly heavily traveled roads built for semis.
And we have Marcus can give you the short thumbnail sketch of where our ridership is, and where are they likely to be.
The street now, just west on Rich Road. So, I mean, you know, they have moved around, you know, a location out there, they're not worth, you know, and they've been on that.
Maybe it doesn't need to be the limiting important in this conversation, because originally we were thinking industrial spaces and other spaces that were, you know, already appropriately zoned for something of this nature.
Sense that 75% to 80% start on the campus of NIU. Others will be something that we could consider based upon this location. We could look at that as well.
Great, thank you.
City Manager Nicholas.
I just wanted to say, I could be dead wrong on everything I just said tonight. All I hope is that what we get out of this, with the enormous federal and state resources that are available to us now and will be available to us, whatever site we pick, that we pick a site that isn't just something we've used or we're used to seeing or might work, that is ideal for this community. That's what I think, and that's why we're looking to engage professionals who are in this business to do that.
In the background material, Because when I first saw this several weeks ago, before we even brought it to a city council agenda, I said to Bill, $1 million for us, for this? And then I looked at what the legal impact would be, and our city attorneys have looked at it. There's no problem. But most recently, the city of Dekalb was awarded $5 million as part of the Rebuild Illinois Capital Grant Program, with $1 million of that $5 million allocated towards architecture and engineering. Between the federal and state capital grants, the city has $8,750,000 in capital grants available, with $1,750,000 allocated to complete Part 1 and Part 2 of the transit facility project. Thus, there is no impact to the general fund. Okay, so I think we have to keep that in mind going forward. Not necessarily, I think there's clear consensus that this site is not what the city council feels would be best for allocation of those dollars. But the proposal that City Manager Nicholas proposes seems to make sense. Alderman Morris, and then stay there, Marcus, if you would.
So the other site that comes to mind then is somewhere around the Convocation Center. So that's all.
Alderman Verbeek.
And I guess the thoughts, the city manager mentioned, looking 20 years out, that you're ready for that. That's outstanding. How do we best prepare this facility for those technological changes? Again, it could evolve into more electrically ran public transportation around DeKalb. It seems like there's an initiative to work that way among our federal government. So is this the time now that we would embrace that evolution, or is that something we're looking at further down the road as a outcropping of the new transit center?
Have to consider that.
And
Alderman Morris.
Yeah, I think with that, I've been in cities where they have hybrid buses, and the experience is totally different. It is not like being near a bus station. It's not like being near a bus. The sound is a world of difference, as well as the emissions. You're not breathing fumes. It's like a little, putt-putt car drove by. It's very clean.
Marcus, I want to commend you for working with Stantec and others in this bidding process. I appreciate the work that you've done and the work, and I would hope that you don't take any of what was said tonight as a negative view of transit and the need to move forward with this facility. I don't hear that from City Council tonight. So thank you for your work on this. Now, what I would suggest then is that logistically, would it be best to vote on this proposal, and then if it is in fact voted down, we would ask City Manager Nicholas to ask Stantec to come forward with some other options. Would that be something that would fall within our legal parameters in doing the right thing?
You can certainly vote it down. In fact, it's
Well, that's what I would think was
maybe
gonna
cleaner
happen.
that way. We don't have a hanging resolution that we
Right.
have.
But we have a motion on the floor, and I think we ought to at least vote on that. Any other comments? Alderman Smith.
I do have utmost confidence in Stantec they're a proven engineering firm, so I think they definitely will come back, and they know the area very well, so they are going to definitely do us justice in this site location, so.
Yeah, there seems to be consensus on that too, Alderman Smith.
That's it.
Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Smith,
No.
Perkins,
No.
McAdam,
No.
Verbic,
No.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
No.
No.
I have 1 aye, 6 nay.
That resolution is defeated. Okay, moving along to another resolution. Resolution number 4, 2021-030, approving the regulation of traffic for the purpose of holding the annual Dekalb Corn Festival on Illinois Route 38 between First Street and Fourth Street, beginning Thursday, August 26, 2021, at 4 p.m. through Sunday, August 29, 2021, at 10 p.m. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Are we ready for Corn Fest or what? Okay. Who did that? I'm going to say Alderman McAdams made that motion. No? No? Alderman Morris made that motion. Okay, who's going to second that? Alderman Smith?
Yep.
Okay. Been moved by Alderman Morris, seconded by Alderman Smith. City Council and City Manager Nicholas, any comments on this?
I might suggest that if you have to do this by motion, but if you want to combine these 3, 4, 5, and 6 in omnibus fashion, then they're all the Corn Fest package.
I'll move to combine items 4, 5, and 6, resolutions 2021-30, 2021-31, and resolution 2021-32 to an omnibus form.
I need a second on that, and then I will read those.
Second.
Okay, so we are voting, the motion is to approve, or to vote at least, in omnibus form. 2021-030, which I have read, approving the regulation of traffic for the purpose of holding the annual Dekalb Corn Fest. Number 2021-031, approving a nonprofit special event liquor license for the 2021 Corn Fest. And number 2021-032, authorizing a special event agreement with Dekalb Corn Fest Incorporated for the 2021 Corn Fest.
Mr. Mayor, I believe before we proceed any further, the original motion on just item 4 should be withdrawn.
Yeah, it's still on the table.
Okay, would you withdraw,
Yes.
withdraw the motion on the first one?
I withdraw.
Okay, if you
I'll
withdraw
second.
that.
I'll withdraw it too. I'll withdraw my second.
Some discussion about it.
Yeah, I see our city attorney and our city manager.
There we go. As a procedural first step, then the next step is the bus agenda that was,
Made prior to that, just for item 4.
correct.
It needs to be withdrawn,
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
and that, I think, has been done, so.
So we vote on the motion to withdraw?
No.
We do not have to.
We vote on the motion to combine.
Combine, okay.
Create the agenda.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Lynn, do you have that pretty clear in what we're trying to do here?
Yes, except that I need to know who is the second on the combining.
Alderman Smith.
Thank you.
So it was Alderman Morris making the motion, Alderman Smith making the second to combine the 3 resolutions and approve those, or at least vote on those tonight in omnibus form. Alderman Verbeek.
Is this the time for discussion about?
Yes,
Corn Fest?
absolutely.
Great.
Discussion.
I'm not a part of the planning committee, so I'm not sure, perhaps this is all taken into account. But is Corn Fest going to be more spread out this year? Does anyone know? Will there be more focus on social distancing and trying to keep safe and whatnot, which could lead to what, a larger space needed for Corn Fest? I'm not sure.
I don't think it'd be a larger space, but there certainly is that discussion going on. I don't attend this is a private group, as you know.
Right,
But
right.
we are aware that they have to consider that. They're still waiting. This is 3 hopeful resolutions, obviously. It depends what happens in the coming weeks, but assuming that we can have a festival of this sort for more than 50 people, then I suspect social distancing will continue to be part of any executive orders, and we're planning on that to be the case.
That was made clear in the applications, that the background information provided that. And I looked that over, and I didn't see any geographical divergence from the plan, et cetera.
Now, the approach taken not last year, 2 years ago, with the vendors in the middle will actually help with the social distancing. There's more room for people to walk around. And I understand that that's going to be their intent.
So we don't anticipate any other road closures then?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, City Clerk Fazekas, we are ready for a roll call.
McAdam.
Yes.
Think for a second.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 aye.
Other than when I call for a motion to adjourn, I don't think I've ever seen so much interest in a motion right away, right off the bat than that one. So, okay. Number 7, Resolution 2021-033.
Mayor, if I may, the next item would be to approve the three resolutions on the omnibus agenda that was just created.
All we did was approve combining.
All we did was approve the creating the omnibus
I'd
agenda.
entertain a motion to approve the 3 resolutions, 2021-030, 031, and 032, in omnibus form. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderman Favor. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdam.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 aye.
Thank you. Those resolutions are approved in omnibus form. Number 7, Resolution 2021-033, authorizing an engineering services agreement with Fairview for design engineering of 7,900 feet of water main in an amount not to exceed $154,000. I'd entertain a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Smith, seconded by Alderman McAdams. City Manager Nicholas.
Thank you, Mayor. As we have for many years, we've been tackling some infrastructure repairs and replacements before we put a nice, beautiful new asphalt surface on these streets that are part of our street maintenance program. And this year is no different. We've recommended the replacement of water mains on Joanne Lane and North 13th and North 14th Streets. And we have a list of pre-qualified engineering firms that have been working with us on projects like this. Fairview is the one that we have recommended and selected for working out the design work for all 3 of these, although only Joanne Lane will be done in the fall of this year, and just in advance of the work, the actual repaving. So their price is competitive and relative to the size of the projects is a good price, we feel. And city engineers recommended, I'm passing along my recommendation to enter the contract with Fairview in the amount of $154,000. That covers all 3 streets over 2
Right,
years.
yeah, that's good work to get done. Any further discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 aye.
Thank you. That resolution is approved. We have no ordinances for second reading this evening. We do have a couple for first reading. The first one, 2021-014, amending Chapter 7, Water Service, Section 7.18-6, Water Service Fee, to include water meter sizes not currently contained in the fee schedule. If you recall, we discussed this topic a little bit at a previous meeting. This makes a few changes to that. I'd entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Verbeek, seconded by Alderman Morris. City Manager Nicholas, please.
You're right, Mayor. We had, in effect, the first reading at the last meeting. Nothing has changed. We bring this forward to you in ordinance form, and we recommend its approval tonight.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 aye.
Since we've had considerable discussion on this, is there any desire to waive second reading and approve?
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved by Alderman Perkins, seconded by Alderman Favor, that we waive second reading on this ordinance and approve. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdams,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved. Number two, ordinance 2021-015, approving an amendment to ordinance 2020-029 to extend the time limit to July 1, 2022 to obtain a state-issued cannabis dispensary license for the property located at 818 West Lincoln Highway, requested by New Med Partners. Motion, please.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved by Alderman McAdams, seconded by Alderman Fanouken. City Manager Nicholas?
Thank you, Mayor. And if you have any questions of New Med, one of their principals, Laura Bernal, is on the call tonight, or on the Zoom, I believe. So this is pretty straightforward. The City Council approved a special use permit for adult use and medical cannabis dispensary at the Junction Shopping Center for New Med Partners back in April, just about a year ago, 2020. And then they went on to the state. However, the COVID-19 restrictions at the state level slowed or basically halted the review process. That process has been reactivated, and they've come asking for an extension of their time period till July 1st, 2022, and they're confident that they can get a ruling from the state one way or another by then. And the Plan Commission had to take this up again because it was a special use permit, and this changes the time frame, and they voted 4-1 in favor of the approval. The commissioner voting against just doesn't like cannabis.
Alderman Morris and then Alderman Perkins.
So I think that we are really excited to see this new business come to town, and so I'd like to ask, is it Laura?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Laura, how can we help you come sooner?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to us today. Thanks for that warm welcome. We are also extremely excited to come to town. We obviously cannot wait. Unfortunately, right now, it's the state issue. It's a licensing issue. That process has been extremely delayed, as was mentioned by the city manager, in part because of COVID, in part because there've been some lawsuits related to the process that have slowed it down. That being said, I think there's tremendous pressure from all sides to release these results as quickly as possible, and we really hope that we'll see some results by the fall, but there has been no official timeline declared yet. Originally, these licenses were supposed to be announced in May of last year, so it's quite delayed as it is already. Our plan is, as soon as licenses are announced, to move forward immediately with permitting, designing, and getting ready to do a build out so we could open our doors to the public as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. Alderman Perkins.
You touched on it a little bit, but what's the expectation from the state? What's the crystal ball say? When do we think they're going to move, and what's the holdup?
Yeah, as I said, the law that legalized these licenses originally called for them to be announced in May of 2020. Right now, where we are in the process is I want to say about a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, the state issued deficiency notices for all applicants in which they were allowed to address any deficiencies within their applications. Those were submitted by all applicants, and right now the applications are under review. There has been no official word at all about timing. We don't know when they're going to announce winners. We don't even know the exact mechanism by which they're going to end up deciding who gets awarded licenses. And all I can speak from is a sense of hope and guessing that we'll have an answer by the fall. But like I said, there's no official word yet from the state. That being said, I will assure the council that we believe we have very strong chances. We have strong applications. We know already what our scores have been, not only our own, but also applications that we've put together with social equity applicants that we've supported and helped consult and work with throughout the process. So we hope that of those groups and our own applications, there will hopefully, and I'm crossing my fingers here, there will be a license that we can put in that location, which we love. And I have to say, and our landlord has been extremely flexible, patient, and willing to work with us within all this frustrated and unexpected development in the licensing process.
Alderman Verbeek.
Yes, as Alderman in Ward 6, I'm asked quite often, what do we know about the process? And I'll leave it to say that anticipation is high.
We're very happy to hear that. We're very happy to hear that. And as you know, our own, or you may not know this, but our own cultivation center, which we acquired May of last year, is not far from you at Hillcrest. So even our own employees, many of whom are DeKalb residents, cannot wait for us to have dispensing available in DeKalb so they can be customers of their own company and they can not have to travel so far whenever they need cannabis, medical or otherwise. And so we are really excited to come to town.
Any further discussion on this request to simply extend the time limit on this? Roll call, please.
Smith,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdam,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8-aye.
Well, it sounds like while time may not be of the essence, is there a desire to waive second reading tonight and pass
I'll move
this?
that we waive second reading and approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Fanouken, seconded by Alderman McAdams, that we waive second reading and approve tonight. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Perkins,
Yes.
McAdam,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Smith,
Yes.
8 aye.
Thank you. That ordinance is approved. Thank you, Laura. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, it's time for reports and communications, allowing any of our aldermen, city clerk, and myself to make any reports along with City Manager Nicholas. So I'll start with our first ward alderman, Carolyn Morris.
Sure, I just want to congratulate our mayor-elect, Cohen Barnes, and the other winners of the races this past week.
Thank you. Second ward alderman, Bill Fanouken.
I just want to state that I'm very happy I've been able to rejoin in person. Having received my second vaccine shot just less than a month ago. And, with DeKalb County now 17% fully vaccinated, I think we're making great progress coming out of the pandemic, but I'll again caution people, continue wearing your mask and social distance. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Fanouken. And thank you for keeping us informed each and every meeting, even when you were on Zoom, about the importance of wearing that mask and doing the best we can. So we appreciate your efforts in that regard. Alderman Smith, third ward.
No report.
And how about our fourth ward, Greg Perkins?
No report.
And fifth ward, Scott McAdams?
No report.
And our sixth ward, Mike Verbeek?
Well, traffic counts are certainly up in Ward 6 with the outstanding effort by the DeKalb County Health Department and National Guard at the Convocation Center with all of the vaccinations. Over the next 2 weeks, there are over 8,000 vaccinations scheduled for the Convocation Center.
Thank you, Alderman Verbeek. Alderman Favor, seventh ward.
No report.
I'd like to just read a couple paragraphs from a posting on our website, cityofdekalb.com. And this was posted by Scott Zach, and I appreciate him putting this up. While the pandemic has been keeping people apart, the city of DeKalb, NIU, and a collection of local agencies have been working to bring the DeKalb community closer together through the Belonging Initiative. Aided by a $30,000 grant from the Illinois Department of Human Services and a $5,000 donation from the DeKalb County Community Foundation, a number of organizations have been working on a variety of public art and engagement activities. And if you haven't gone to the website, please click on that. There are a number of links. One to Arts in Action, which is a display at the DeKalb County History Center. Really, really nice looking. The Faces of Belonging, which are now on our Husky Line buses around town. A wonderful exhibit from people who live and work and study here in DeKalb. The University Anthropology Center has a very thoughtful exhibit called Hateful Things. And it is really dynamic. And I encourage you to take a look at the virtual presentation of Hateful Things through that Pick Museum of Anthropology. Again, all of that is available off of our city website. And this all runs along a number of dialogues called Diversity Dialogues, hosted by NIU. One final point that I'd like to make tonight, and that is the next council meeting will be my last official city council meeting, and you folks had agreed to give me a few minutes, and I promise it will only be a few minutes during the April 26th meeting to reflect just on some personal thoughts as it relates to what we're accomplishing here in the city of DeKalb and what the city council, you folks, have been so participative and so active in helping our city continue to grow and continue to prosper. So if you have forgotten that permission that you granted, sorry, you granted it. and I will take a few minutes on the 26th of April. That concludes my report. Any report from Lynn Fazekas, our city clerk, who also will be attending her last meeting on the 26th. Lynn?
No report.
And City Manager Nicholas?
Mayor, just something real quick. Zach Gill and I met with Scott Dillon of Nearing Electric last Friday. We've been working, and so has Don Harper of the Building Department, with both resident issues and trying to get the company to continue to move forward in some new ways to help with the parking. A big thing that the council had supported about 6 weeks ago now has not happened because the batch plant isn't open yet, but very soon the resurfacing of the parking lot over at 10th and Locust, it will be possible, and we will certainly encourage the quickest completion of that project that is possible. But the focus that we had in our conversation on Friday was of that area between 8th Street and 10th Street on Locust, on West, on East Locust. And that is, continues to be an area of congestion, largely but not exclusively because of trucks, but mostly because of the truck traffic and the loading and unloading. And there continues to be a large number of on-street parking spaces that are used by the employees of Nearing. And so a revised approach to what we presented to you about a month ago is in the offing, and I'm hoping we can probably bring something to you at the next meeting, maybe with some pricing and some graphics. That's our objective. I want to thank Zach Gill, who's done any number of hand drawings and sketches, and we're continuing to work this through.
Okay, thank you, City Manager Nicholas. Hearing or seeing no other reports, I'd like to, first of all, ask the City Council to approve that we go into recess for an executive session, because we do need to have an executive session in order to discuss pending or imminent litigation as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2C11. And for those folks on Zoom, I'm going to let you know that we will be disconnecting Zoom from this meeting because of security concerns regarding Zoom and other remote transmissions. We cannot hold an executive session on Zoom. So I'd entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Alderman Smith and seconded by Alderman Verbeek. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
McAdams.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Favor.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
8 ayes.
We are now in recess for purposes of meeting in executive session.